So I've been focusing on our connection to nature and natural approaches to healing this month. And I really wanted to include Ayurveda. And as we were discussing before, I have some basic knowledge of Ayurveda and I'm fascinated by it. I find it's a very soothing, healing, comforting approach to health and healing. And so I wanted to start with a definition for people who don't really know, they've never heard of Ayurveda, or they're curious, but they've never read up about it. What is Ayurveda exactly?
Yes. So Ayurveda means the science of life. So it's a comprehensive system of creating healing and harmony in your life. And we're using all aspects of your life. So we'll look at natural nutrition, herbalism, lifestyle practices, self-care, how you link to the natural world. We might look at your relationships. So it's really a holistic system of healing. And this is a system that is one of the oldest unbroken wisdom traditions on the planet today.
Mm.
It's like the indigenous system of healing from ancient India. And it has the same philosophical roots as yoga. So a lot of people will recognize some of the vocabulary as what we would know from yoga. So it's often called the sister science of yoga.
Mm-hmm.
And Ayurveda can be used to both to create healing and harmony in your life, and also as a preventative form of medicine. So when you notice something's off in your body, a lot of people say, I'm not sick, but something's off. I feel like I'm, tired all the time. I feel like I'm grumpy, just something, my thoughts aren't clear. So Ayurveda is this comprehensive understanding of the wisdom of life, the wisdom of well-being, to help you to not only to deal with some of these symptoms that we have and to heal naturally, but also to help you understand the wisdom of nature that you hold within your own body. So to help you enliven your own intelligence so that you can become your own best healer. So that's really what Ayurveda comes from. It comes from the tradition of India, the tradition of yoga, and helps you create healing and harmony in your life in all levels.
Beautiful. What a beautiful experience. I think everybody could benefit from that. So it has a different way of thinking about health than Western approaches. What are the main differences between Ayurveda and sort of Western medicine?
Yeah, I find that in North America, we tend to look at like alternative medicine or natural healing as something that's separate from kind of the Western model. In other countries, it's not necessarily so divided. Even in Europe, it's not necessarily like they practice with more fluidity between, herbalism and like more serious medical interventions. So in India, we often will see Ayurvedic medicine being practiced in collaboration with Western medicine. So, for example, some of my friends who are doctors, Ayurvedic doctors in India, are also Western doctors, like trained in Western medicine. So it's not really the same divide.
Yes.
And so we recognize that like some ailments that Western medicine doesn't know what to do with, Ayurveda can come in and say, okay, let's work with this aspect, let's work with this herb, let's work with these lifestyle practices, and they'll find amazing natural healing solutions. So it's not to take anything away from the Western approach. I think there's so many amazing advances in Western medicine, but just to recognize that sometimes we can use things that are less invasive with really powerful solutions. Most people will say also, like when they start practicing with Ayurvedic lifestyle and diet, they may have come for one particular reason, like I have headaches or I have digestive problems. And instead of getting like side effects, which are very common in Western medicine, what they tend to realize is that they actually have side benefits. So all of a sudden they're like, oh, I have more energy and I feel happy for no reason and I stop screaming at my husband, right? Because it's a relationship to nature. It's a relationship to your own true nature, your own like the core of who you are, the best parts of who you are is what we want to enliven with Ayurvedic lifestyle and self-care. So I think that's part of why people feel attracted to it, because it's just so, it speaks to that intuitive, harmonious part of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I would also say in like kind of the more sophisticated aspects of Ayurveda is that it also is interested in promoting a higher state of consciousness. Right.
Yes.
And that's why a lot of like yogis or mystics or, healers will get into this, because they realize that, I have this capacity for like subtle perception, or for recognizing my interconnectedness with other people and my intuition. And that's what they want to get in touch with more. And so
Mm-hmm.
Ayurveda is not, yeah, okay, we can make symptoms go away, we can feel great. But also it's this like higher perception that I think a lot of people are looking for. And that's kind of the intelligence that Ayurveda is ultimately getting us to express and to realize. Yeah.
Oh, what a beautiful process. I love the idea of side benefits instead of side effects. Like,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love that, because you're like, oh, I'm trying to XYZ, but then in the process you just unfold and start to evolve and connect and get grounded, and beautiful.
Exactly. It's like the symptoms, we see symptoms as just, as your body is just speaking to you. It's just saying, I need a little bit more care. Just like if your children would say, okay, one child needs a little bit more attention this month, the same with our
Yep.
body. So if we ignore that, or we try to suppress it with medication, it's not necessarily going to get better. But if we embrace that part of ourselves and we learn to incorporate different routines or different herbs, yeah, that's when the side benefits come in.
Yeah. I'm thinking, as you're saying that, I'm thinking it's the same with emotions. I mean, I work as a therapist, and people who are trying to avoid feeling angry or sad, at some point you have this massive blow up because you haven't expressed it, or you'll just sink into a deeper depression because it snowballs.
Yes.
So there's some wisdom, and just go with it, just do it, just express it and get it out there, right? And then you can move and process.
Absolutely. Yeah, giving yourself the space to feel what you're feeling, and yeah. Not to get stuck there, but just to explore that feeling. Yeah.
Yeah. Don't unpack and live there, but just
Yeah.
just let it out. So self-care is really important right now, more than ever with this pandemic. Is there a different way of seeing or approaching self-care through Ayurveda?
Yes. So Ayurveda, we tend to work with nature. So we work with the 5 elements. It's based in the 5 elements,
Mm-hmm.
which sounds very primal. It's sometimes difficult for people to understand, okay, why are you talking about the 5 elements? But it's the foundation of what we are. And
Mm-hmm.
all, like most indigenous systems of wisdom, will work with some understanding of the 5 elements. So if we talk about the 5 elements in Ayurveda, it's defined as earth, water, fire, air, and ether. And so depending on the elements that are expressing themselves in your body, you might want to emphasize care for different elements. And one of the elements that's the most, I find the most interesting in Ayurveda to care for is this aspect of ether, or space.
Yes.
Because we don't often, we think about, we're very material. We don't think about the space, like the space that holds everything, right? And so it's this element that's it's a little bit mystical to understand, but it's the space, so ether. And so Ayurveda really gives us these practices that help us to balance and refine the ether, to take care of the ether, to recognize the ether that holds. So practices like when you wake up in the morning, having a sacred space or some kind of practice in the morning, or before you go to bed at night, or making your meal into a sacred space. As you're saying, giving yourself space to digest your emotions, or to rest, so it's not necessarily about doing more things, right? It's more like how you do what you do. And definitely practices like breath work, meditation, mantra. In Ayurveda, we link the space, the ether element, to sound and the voice. So sound healing, or keeping silence for a period of time, or, paying attention to what you speak. These are all part of, the wisdom that wants to express itself through us. And so by becoming more conscious of how we, create space for ourselves, not necessarily about doing more, but just bring consciousness to the way we do what we do. It can be a really
Yeah.
powerful practice. Yeah. Yeah. We also talk about how you're basically like feeding yourself constantly through not just what you eat, but through the five senses. Right. So, we can eat well, and that's wonderful, but also, like, the news you watch, or, what you're eating on social media, or, synthetic fragrances versus essential oils, all of these things have the capacity to either create harmony within ourselves or to create some kind of confusion or imbalance. So we want to pay attention to how we feed ourselves and give ourselves opportunities to like restore and nourish and balance the senses and make them feel like, come back to that again, that natural intelligence. The natural intelligence that you have within your body gets enlivened by some of these self-care practices we do. So we talked about a little bit about like Ayurvedic massage. Self-massage is a really good practice. Very simple, or you can do foot massage. There's many things we could do through diet or lifestyle. Even just taking a walk in the morning, can be a very simple way to align yourself with the rhythms of nature and to tell your body, okay, it's morning, time for action, right? So these very, very simple things can make a huge difference in how well we live.
Absolutely. And I like that Ayurveda has personalized approaches to treatment according to people's doshas. Can you talk about the 3 mind body type?
Yes. So in Ayurveda, we would say like what works well for me might not work well for you, right? Because we're different people. Sometimes we live in different climates. So energetically, we say there's basically 3 main mind body types. So we have a type that's more earth and water. We have a type that's more fire and water. And we have a type that's more air and ether. And we can kind of tell what people are depending on their body type or the shape of their eyes or their skin tone. Like, so it creates a whole constitution, kind of speaking in generalizations, but most people will recognize themselves in these patterns of nature. So an earth type might have a more heavier build, or they might have like well-defined muscles or nice curves, right? So they have more earth in their body. Sometimes they gain weight more easily. They have nice smooth skin. They have more earth, right? More water. So sometimes in their mindset can be more traditional, more stable. Sometimes they can get a little bit stuck in their ways of seeing things because they have more earth, right? So they're more resistant to change, but they tend to be very enduring, loyal, sweet people who are difficult to upset. Like they're chill, because they have that earth, that stability within them.
Yeah.
In the fire type, we tend to have more of a medium body type or more of an athletic body type. These people tend to be more of our managers, the people who want to get things done, right? So they can be a little bit competitive, a little bit fiery. They like to be on center stage. They want everything to be efficient, right? Sometimes they can be a little bit impatient, right? Or a little bit, they get overheated and they can burn out. Right? That fire, that willingness to change things, sometimes that they have to learn how to mitigate that. And then we have our air types, air and ether. Their builds tend to be more thin or more fragile. They tend to be a little bit more delicate, more dry. And these people tend to love, they have less earth, right? So they tend to love to live in the realm of ideas and imagination and inspiration. They can be a little bit quirky or spiritual. sometimes they have a hard
Yeah.
time, yeah, sometimes they have a hard time being like grounded or reliable or taking care of matter. Like for them, they have to focus on the opposite aspect, which is like being grounded and sticking to routines, right? So we're all kind of a mix of these three types, and they can play out more in certain times of our lives. Or like you might say, I'm an earth type, but I'm noticing I have the air thing going on right now. So we learn this language, which is the language of the energy patterns in nature. And then through that, we can say, okay, now I need,
Yes.
yeah, like now I need to ground a little bit, or now I need warmth, or now I need movement. So it's different strokes for different folks, basically. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. And I found, I mean, I've read up on the doshas before, and I was curious about it and looking for recipes that would suit my dosha. And what I find interesting is that when I was reading, there was like find your dosha, you know, they have those quizzes,
Mhm.
and it feels like I'm not the same dosha because when I was younger, I was extremely like I could not gain weight. I was always super thin,
Mhm.
could not gain weight. Even if you paid me, I couldn't do it. I was always cold. You know, my hands were cold, my feet were cold, and I hated going out in the winter. I just wanted to like hibernate until it was nice again. And my happiest place in the winter was next to the fireplace, and I loved stews and stuff like that. But I find as I'm aging, maybe because, you know, premenopausal, I don't know, I'm never cold now, and I do gain weight quite easily. And so, you know, I recognize that we all have a little bit of each one, but it feels like I've kind of changed which one I am, and that may just be a transitional period. But um, I'm curious about what self care would look like for each of those doshas.
Mhm, mhm, mhm. Yeah, I think you're touching on something that a lot of people will find when they discover Ayurveda is they say, I think I'm this, but then I'm also this. And so in that case, we tend to start implementing self-care. That there's a lot of self-care that works for everybody.
Right.
Like, I mentioned taking a walk in the morning, or doing, a little bit of yoga every day, or meditation. These are practices that work for everybody. Um, and we also have practices that work better for different seasons. So, like right now, we're in the spring season, which is where we see the earth and the water elements are predominating. Most people will feel a predominance of those elements in our bodies. So, what does that look like? That can look like feeling a little bit heavy or a little bit tired, but at the same time, you have more energy and you want to work out, and you're ready to shed the winter weight, right? Like,
Yeah.
so, and there's this coldness in the body because it's all the coldness of the winter that's trying to leave our bodies, right? So,
Mm.
yeah. So in the winter, or in the spring, we would tend to emphasize like exercise that's stimulating, like a good brisk walk, maybe like a sauna if you can, or a hot bath. Things like ginger tea can be great.
Mhm.
And usually a lighter diet. Like we want to, like in Christianity, we would say Lent, you stay off sweets, but that actually has a wisdom
Mhm.
in the spring. Your body needs to clean out the heaviness of the winter. So we might want to go like, not a strict diet, but like, maybe we don't have cheesecake and brownies in the spring. We just emphasize like more greens and more teas and more water. Like you don't have to be strict, but it's just understanding that your body's making a huge transition from holding in the cold, like protecting
Mhm.
itself against the cold in the winter, to in a few months it's going to be really hot, right? We're going to be at the beach. So like you're trying to support that transition. Dry skin brushing can be great in the spring. So just understanding these little things we can do, making soups, ginger,
Mhm.
like using spices that stimulate digestion, right? And you're nodding because you're like, yeah, like you can feel it in your body that feels good, right? Like it's not about being strict at all. It's about
Yes.
realizing that your body's trying to do something, and like enlivening or supporting that intelligence of your body. Yeah. And when we do that in the springtime, usually we would do some kind of Ayurvedic detox or purification practice.
Mhm.
We're more likely to have good immunity for the rest of the year, right? Because your body's just trying to evacuate the winter. When we take care of that element in the springtime, our immunity is better, our energy is better, you know, our skin is better. All these things naturally, the side benefits we talk about, they naturally appear. Yeah.
It's such a gentle approach, you know, as you're describing it. I'm thinking, because I mean, I think about all of the like diets where you can't eat this and you can't eat that, and you're just tortured trying to restrict stuff from your diet. But the approach of what's my body trying to do and sort of just helping it out is such a more loving way of doing it, you know?
Yeah, it's really about love. Yeah, it's really about love. Like a lot of, like even the oil massage is about having that feeling of love in your body. Like if you remind your body that it's loved, you're probably not gonna need to binge on Netflix and eat like too much chocolate cake. Like, you know, like you're coming from a different place. So yeah, we don't restrict
Yes,
anything.
you're full.
Yeah, you're full, you feel nourished. It's like a deeper quality of nourishment. And from that place we're naturally making better choices. You don't
Right.
have to be a size 2, it doesn't really matter. You know, like it's that you're coming from this place that you feel like you're being nourished. And then you can nourish other people, and it creates a different cycle of living. Yeah.
Definitely sets a different pace.
Yeah.
So you offer meditation courses online. What is the connection? What's the link between meditation, breath work, and Ayurveda? Because they seem cyclical. So what's the
Yeah,
link?
they definitely support each other. I would say like meditation's almost like the foundation or the bed. If we're talking about that ether element, like
Mhm.
getting in touch with that subtle aspect, or that subtle innate self connection, you know,
Yeah.
that inner voice. And so sometimes that takes a little bit of time for us to clear some of the, you know, negativity or the other voices that are not ours from
Yeah.
our physiology. And so that's where practices like meditation and breath work, even practicing with other people, can be really powerful, because it takes you out of your own, you know, it enriches your own experience, right? And having that opportunity to share with other people and to hear other people's questions. Sometimes people can have, you know, if they haven't experienced meditation, they're like kind of like, they're like wondering, well, where am I going to go? You know, it's like, I'm not going to Costco, you know, like where you come back with a lot of stuff, you know.
Yeah.
It's like kind of
Yeah.
the opposite, where we're going to a place within you that's very, very subtle. And but like from that place is where we connect best with other people. And
Mhm.
we from that place we connect best with the natural world. We make the best choices. So it's again, meditation's like a practice, probably one of the best practices that I know, to help enhance that self connection.
Mhm.
And then if you go through periods of your life where, you know, you're raising children or whatever, your lifestyle is maybe not like the best lifestyle, you still have that place, you know, that depth of connection within yourself, and things just take care of themselves. I don't know how else to describe it. Yeah.
Yeah. And so you meditate, and then where does the breath work
Yeah.
and Ayurveda, how does that, where
Yeah.
does that?
Yeah. So breath work is it's definitely something that's encouraged in the yogic tradition. We call it pranayama. Um, and basically, sometimes people have a hard time connecting to meditation just by itself, right? They're coming from a place that's a little bit too busy, or they, you know. But if you give them something to focus on, such as the breath, they'll immediately notice that, like a certain sense of calm that comes afterward, or, you know, oh, I can focus on my breath, or I can do this counting, or I can do these practices. And so the breath work is like a way, the breath is very linked to the mind. And so when we do practices that help us to, that use the breath to kind of create clarity in the mind and create clarity in the energy field. And then if we want to practice meditation afterward, it's much easier to just slip into that state.
Mhm.
So it's a practice that also it's related to the nervous system also. Like right now, our nervous systems are a little bit fried with all of the technology and all of the change, like, we're in an increasingly global world. Like, we're everything, something that happens in China, it affects everything. So
Yeah.
that the nervous system is the part of us that is like constantly receiving information and trying to assimilate it. And so a practice like breath work, even though it's a little bit, we're working with a more subtle aspect of you, we're really working to kind of strengthen and purify the nervous system and release some of the stresses that we have accumulated throughout the day, so that our energy field is more clear, and so that our entire physiology works a little bit more efficiently or a little bit more smoothly. Yeah. Yeah. So people will say something like, I did that practice for a few weeks, and then all of a sudden I just felt like I was just happy, and I just felt like, things were happening around me, and it wasn't that good, but like I was okay. Like, so it's again it's like connecting to that space, constantly connecting to that, and like imbuing yourself in that space within you that is the source of your energy and of your own well-being. Yeah.
Yes, that's beautiful. And so you've got the meditation,
Yes.
and you've got the breath work,
Mhm.
and where does the Ayurveda fit in?
Oh, Ayurveda would recommend a little bit of breath work and meditation every day.
Okay, so that's just part
It
and
would be
parcel.
part of it. Yeah, we'd
Yeah.
recommend, like, if you wanted to do, like, you could do yoga, you could do tai chi. It doesn't really matter, but in general, we would recommend,
Yeah.
yeah, breath work and meditation if you can. Yeah, 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 exactly. It's like that principle of balance where we want to get to a place that's balanced.
Mhm.
Balance isn't like balance isn't like stable anyway. Like, we need a little bit of that movement. And so breath work or qigong like you're doing is like perfect. That's like the perfect combination.
So if somebody's watching this and they're interested in doing more meditation or breath work or spiritual exploration, or they want to explore food through Ayurveda or whatever healing modalities, um, where should they go? How do they find you? Reach out to you? What's the best way to do that?
Yeah, they can write to me, or they can check out my website at briyafreeman.com.
Hmm.
I have a newsletter, so I usually write, and when I have a new course coming out, I just write to everyone on my newsletter. I'm also going to be at Pure Lotus with Carrie in Kemptville on April 18th. So if people are interested, that's like an intro to
Yeah.
Ayurveda workshop. So I'll be there then, and yeah, or you can just reach out if you write me an email. I'm always happy to hear from people who are interested in exploring these parts of ourselves, because I think it's something that can be really enriching, and yeah, that I enjoy doing.